countdown. 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Hey, everybody. Jay Cummings with People's Trust Company, Business Development Officer and Marketing Director, here with you on our live podcast. Now, what I have determined, and I was just mentioning to Heather that this application, when it goes live, it's about a 45-second delay before people can see us or hear us on LinkedIn or Facebook. However, on the playback, not live version, they get exactly this beginning. So, as you kind of guessed, I did a little bit of a stall tactic there before we went live on the other two platforms. Lori's going to give me a wave. My producer here will give me a wave when we are live. She's got two devices that she monitors to see whether the laptop or the handheld device cues in quicker. But I do see that we do have one person that already was waiting for us. So, yep. And now we are live with the rest of the world. So the playback people had to hear that 45 seconds twice. So welcome today, folks. And by popular demand, we have our two consultants. They kind of divide the consultant department into two sides. We've got Alison Abry, who is all about your finances, as a fractional CFO is the services that Alison offers. And then we have Heather Daniels, who is an IT consultant. And both ladies have consulted and advised people on the regional scale of Vermont and the national, international field. So they've got a ton of experience from almost every corner of business and from every size of business, from small to supersonic large. So they are here for your questions, folks. And if you have tuned in live to watch us, what you can do is ask a question by chat or comment. So all you have to do is go into, if you're in Facebook, the Facebook event, go into the discussion there and just ask a question on, like you were commenting on a Facebook post, and that magically finds its way to us, and we can ask either consultant the question on your behalf, or if you'd like to ask live, just send us a note saying we want to bring you in on the live chat. And what we'll do is we'll send you a different link and we can bring you in on screen. So you are able to ask face-to-face, one-on-one, your direct question. And don't worry about it. If you're asking a question, chances are everybody else is thinking about the same question to ask. So I would say, don't hesitate. Come on in and ask it. And the other thing I'll say is, don't worry about the other people that are online. If you think your question is too specific and only about your business, I say make it the more specific, the better, because then Alison and Heather can really dive in the weeds with you and give you very granular and very specific information back. And that's where you're going to find the best value if you have that type of question. So before we entertain the questions, I'm going to have each of the speakers do just a brief introduction. And because Heather, you're on top on my little slide panel, I'm going to have you go first.
Hi, everyone. Super happy to be here. I'm Heather Daniels, and I am the owner of Adaze Consulting. I have more than 20 years experience within the IT field, and along with an MBA, I like to marry those two focuses and provide IT services that help your businesses grow. I focus on IT and with the idea of matching it to your business strategy. Thanks so much.
Most excellent. Thank you, Heather. And then Alison, a fractional why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and then tell us what a fractional CFO is and how that works with your customer and clientele.
Great. Super happy to be here. And thanks to Jay and People's Trust Company for doing these live streams. I think they're super valuable. So I'm a CFO and a CPA. I spent 30 years in public accounting as a CPA, and then I've been in industry for about a dozen years since then. And I have my own business now doing CFO consulting. And what I think about when I say that is that, my tagline is I'm a fractional CFO helping businesses increase their profitability. And that's really my mission, is to work with Vermont businesses and really accelerate the profits by using information from your accounting departments. So I have two aspects to my business. I can work with your accounting team and help you build up the systems and processes in the accounting department so that they're really efficient and streamlined, so you can get your financial statements in 3 to 5 business days. And then more on the fractional CFO side, I can act as your outside CFO on an internal basis, on an as needed basis by the businesses. So whether that means once an hour a week, or more typically at month end, meeting with the management team and reviewing your financial statements for accuracy, and then analyzing those and determining how things went on a monthly basis, and where changes can be made, and then working with you on your forecasting and budgeting. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm anxious to hear some questions from the people online.
Perfect. Thank you, Allison. I think I might have mentioned this last time when you were both on the show, about how when I ran a business in a previous life, how information was so guarded and protected and nobody wanted to share it. And now with what you two are offering, I think that if I were to go back in time and could enroll the help of a fractional CFO and an IT consultant, two of my biggest problems in running the business, and to streamline that and make that super efficient and work for me, those would have been two pieces of management of the business that would have significantly changed the outcome of running that business. If I had I'd looked at larger companies and you had a CFO if you had 100 people, and I only had 20. So I'm like, I can't justify a full-time CFO. And I don't even think back then anybody ever entertained a fractional CFO. But boy, if I could get, my CPA on a budget to come in and consult with me once a month, that would have been a huge game changer. So before we get a question, I guess we don't have one just yet, but feel free, for those that have just tuned on, if you want to ask a question, all you have to do is click in the comment. If you're on Facebook, just go in and ask a question there, and it'll populate right here, and then we'll get you in line and get your question asked. Or if you want to come on live on your screen, we'll bring you in live. We'll send you a link to bring you in on the program, and you can go face to face with Allison or Heather, or both at the same time. So just to tempt people and get the ball rolling, why don't I ask a quick question? So, Allison, a lot of small business owners, they'll avoid or delay digging into their P&L statement. And a lot of people manage by, well, hey, I'm profitable at the end of the year, so my finances must be good. What are the first numbers or trends that you will look at when reviewing a P&L? And what should owners be watching month to month?
That's a great question, Jay. Thanks for asking that. So the biggest thing I find when I start working with customers is that really they're not getting their financial statements soon enough. In order to make business decisions that are going to impact your business, you need to know very quickly how the results of your month end. So the goal should be always within 3 to 5 business days, you have your financial statements to look at. And when you look at your financial statements, one of the other biggest mistakes people do is they just look at their monthly financial statements, which maybe has their month and then their year-to-date column, and they look at that information. And that really doesn't tell you anything, but it's the number one tool that they just have been taught by other business owners or their bookkeeper maybe, or maybe even some educational courses that they've taken. But that doesn't tell you anything. You need a 12-month trend. So whether it's they call it trailing 12 months. Sometimes you'll hear the term TTM, or looking forward with your budget, but you always want to look at 12 months. And when you're looking at 12 months, you're looking at sales trends up and down as the months go on. And then if you're selling product, you're looking at margins really closely to see Are the margins staying level, or are they declining, or are they increasing? Well, how are we getting our margins to increase? And that's going to obviously increase your profit.
Oh, I think she
Oh.
froze.
I think she did too. Oh,
I'll wait a minute and see if her internet regenerates here. If not,
that sounds like a tech problem.
yeah, so you're 45 seconds behind. Yeah. Is she still frozen on yours? Yeah. All right. So while Allison is frozen, I'm not sure if she knows that yet. Heather, why don't I skip over to you with a quick question? You know, a lot of business owners may or may not have a tech stack or even know what it means. So, where should someone start when they want to evaluate whether their current software is working for them or it's working against them?
So that's such a great question, Jay. Thank you. Thank you for asking that. And I think that's a real struggle for most businesses, most organizations. And there's a lot of different kind of indicators that may indicate that you need help in that area. And some of them are like maybe someone sends you an email and you never got it, and maybe it went to a mailbox that you didn't even know existed. that could be one that could be one glaring sort of issue. Another issue, and this was happened to a client that I was working with recently. They were losing email. Like they had a few different mailboxes that they thought they were monitoring all the time, and they weren't getting the emails that they thought they were. That was a major issue.
Wow.
Some other problems are, if you have your employees that you're working with, and maybe they're struggling with what piece of software to leverage, versus depending on what the problem is, right? So maybe you would come in and have, just an assessment and to sort of determine, what are people using? Like, what are people using for software? What are people using for solutions? And just get a better idea of what's working within your tech stack.
Boy, if you're not getting your emails and they're kind of evaporating on you, nothing can crush sales faster, I don't think, than that, right? So,
Absolutely. Like, I mean, client inquiries, invoicing, like all the things. Yeah, it's a really big deal. Yeah.
and I can tell you in my old business that I tried like heck to go after my competitors' customers, and
Yeah.
I landed almost none of them by just one-on-one.
Right.
As soon as I contacted them and they said they reached out to their current supplier and that supplier didn't get back to them within 24 hours,
Yeah.
I was no longer a salesperson. I was an order taker.
Absolutely.
They were so
Absolutely.
insulted that they weren't given proper attention.
Absolutely. And one thing, Jay, that I wanted to point out that you were talking about in the beginning when you owned your own business, and how it would be really nice to have been able to leverage, a fractional CFO or, an IT expert. Like, I think that's a really important thing that you said, because now I'm seeing clients that didn't know that they could leverage that either, right? And it's so helpful to lean into an expert to kind of help you through these very, very imperative business processes, right? And I'm hearing, from business owners who are like almost feeling shamed, for lack of a better word, that they don't know these things, right? And I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, and that it is not your fault that you don't know all the things, right? Because what you're going into business, or you've gone into business to sell the thing that you know, whether that is a service, or whether that's something that you're making or whatever. Like, that's why you're in business, and that's how you're making your money. No one could ever expect you to also be an expert in IT and know how to set up your systems, right? And know how to do your email and know how to set up the software that you're using. Or from a financial perspective, know all the finances and the reporting and the ins and outs of that. So it's okay to not know that, and it's okay to get help. And Allison, I don't know, I'm sure you've seen the same thing, right? Like I get it all the time, like all my clients like talk about that.
Yes, it's like every customer that I start working with, they're embarrassed that they don't know how to solve their own problems, and they shouldn't know how to solve their own problems. If you're in the trades, you know your trade industry really well, and all you know what to do is what people have shown you. So if you have a bookkeeper, again, that shows you just your monthly and your year to date, and you're like, this doesn't really tell me anything. What should I be looking at?
Yeah.
You know, it's the trailing 12 months. You got to look at trends, and you're not going to know that unless you have a finance background. And the same, right? You don't know IT unless you have an IT background. Things are so sophisticated in our current day and age, and things change so dramatically. Yeah. And that's the reason for fast financial statements, to be able to look at the data and make fast decisions. And you shouldn't know. And you know what I've run into recently a lot is I've been working with a lot of tradespeople, and their biggest challenge is job costing. So they're very frustrated that they don't know how to put the information in their system and track it properly to be able to get a report out of their system to show them, did I make money on this project or not? And so that's a big challenge I'm finding in the trades, and they shouldn't know how to do that. Why would they know? It's complicated to set up your system correctly, set up the processes, but at least they're asking the right question of, you know, my profitability is going up and down. Is it because I didn't estimate that job correctly, or is it because my employees are charging too much time to that, and I can't really see how much time it's taking my employees? So job costing is a big hot topic for me right now, and the more I can get connected with people who are having challenges with that, I can really help them with that, and it's going to turn around their business.
And the moral of the story, I think, is to not wing it. Like, don't wing these things, right? Like, don't try to figure it out yourself, because in the end, you're going to waste a lot of money. Like I've talked, you know, another aspect of a lot of my client work recently is when clients just try to implement a piece of software. Like they think they know they need this, this, and this, right? And they try to set it up. And it turns out that it's not even the right solution for what they were wanting, you know, for the gaps they're trying to fill. And a better solution, maybe cheaper, you know, it would absolutely fit their business model more. And there's no way that they would know that. Like, there's no way that they would know to ask the questions. Like, from an IT perspective, some questions might be, you know, what IT support is provided with this solution? Like, how often does the solution go down? You know, and what's the communication around software being down? Like, if your business is running on a piece of software and it goes down and your business goes down, like, you need these details. Like, who do I call if I'm having issues? Like, what does that support model look like? Like, will I be on the phone for the next, you know, forever before I get support? Or is it quick? Like, do I have to pay for that? Like, all of these things, there's no way a person who is not in IT that they would know to ask that.
For sure. So, and then I've seen the same thing with financial software. I've had a few clients now have a software that's supposed to help them with their job costing, and they implemented it with the very short training period that most software providers give you. And now they're like, but I still can't get profitability on my job. So what did I miss during training? What should I be doing differently? They're all good questions. And to continue to add on to Heather, you shouldn't know. You should know how to do what you're trained to do. And that's why we can come in. And to Jay's point, that's the beauty of having these kinds of businesses now, is that we can help so many people at different levels and stages of their business, provide expertise that you didn't used to be able to have access to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're really just building your team, right?
That's
And I
right.
see it here quite a bit at the bank when people are growing and expanding and they're in the trades of some sort, or they're selling some product and they're really good at that task, right? They're the technician. And usually if they get to about 15, 18 employees, that's where they stall,
Yeah.
because the head chief task person that was genius at whatever it was they were doing is not doing the task anymore. They're doing all the other tasks, like trying to do the payroll, trying to do the bookkeeping, when they should be out there leading the troops into whatever the task is and
Right.
hire the professionals. But they
Absolutely.
always seem to stall right at that 15 employee. Allison, how often do you see that stall procedure with people, and they?
Yeah, all the time. And it's so funny that every time I do a proposal, I always add the language in there. Let's get you back to doing what your expertise allows you to do, and we can solve all these other problems with systems and processes. And that's where Heather and I work collaboratively together all the time. Like, I'll be in a business and I'll say, oh, okay, well, part of your problem is, why am I emailing to Mr. So-and-so and I get a email back from the bookkeeper? Well, that's not effective. Like, how do you know who's answering the emails? And
Right.
so, and so that's where we can really work with businesses on a collaborative basis to solve many of their problems.
And it's so important too, I find, that to get those processes in place, whether it's IT or finance or just business processes, before you start scaling. Because it's much, much, much harder to untangle all of it. And there's risk involved too. Untangling all of it than getting it right to begin with. That is, and also it's way more expensive from a consulting perspective, and sort of paying for those services when consultants are needing, to untangle years and years and years of sort of business mess, than just setting it up correctly to begin with.
Yeah.
You certainly need a good captain at the head of the ship. Otherwise, if you're on the cruise ship and you went 1,000 miles in the wrong direction, then you got to burn all that fuel to get back to undo it, and
Absolutely.
then
That's a
set
great
plot the
analogy.
course,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, here's a question for both of you, and the subject really just kind of presented itself. Let's say there's a business and things are going well. They're growing pretty fast in leaps and bounds, and now they're juggling a lot. How do you know when it's the time to bring in professional help, like a CFO or a systems consultant? So what are the signs before it's too late?
I think it's important to get an assessment period, right? Like, just invest the money. If you've never had anyone else look at your systems or your processes ever, then chances are they need a little tune up anyway. Like, even if things seem fabulous, sometimes business owners and business leadership, they are the last to know when things are really falling down, right? And if you start to have an inkling of something that might be a little bit off, usually that means it's a lot off, right? So I always recommend, just if you haven't had an assessment lately or ever, just do that. Have someone come in, take a look at your systems, take a look at your processes, see what's working, and see what can be better. And it's totally worth the investment there. And Allison, would you agree?
Yeah, and I would look at it too with different stages of your business. So as you go through growth in your business, you're going to grow and then plateau and then grow and then plateau, and hopefully you don't have any downturns. But I would say it's in those inflection points where, okay, I'm going to grow. And so before you're ready to grow, you may be taking on a new big customer, or you may be adding a bunch of employees in your service business. So that's going to grow your business. before you do that, you want to have the systems in place. So to answer Jay's question, really, you want to be proactive, and the return on your investment, being proactive, is going to pay for itself, because all it takes is one business decision of, oh, that product, I think I can charge a little bit more for it. Or, oh, I didn't know that product was not giving me any gross profit margin. I had no idea, because nobody ever gave me this data to be able to analyze in that aspect. So as you embark on growth stages, and the other key thing is, people, even in my public accounting days, always used to say, I was more profitable being a sole practitioner and just doing it myself than I am with 10 employees. Well, if that's the case, then you're doing something wrong, right? So that's, as you've grown, if you've even added 2 employees and you're not more profitable, then that's the time where you've got to look at your systems, your pricing, and that's where you need help.
That is a great point about both of those. What a telltale sign that if you add an employee and your margins go down or your profit stays the same, I mean, it's all for naught. And I do find people are really, really hesitant by and large to raise their prices. There was a fellow that I was working with, have been working with for quite a while, and did no advertising. People found him because he was performing a service that almost nobody else was going to do. It's a very difficult, dirty job, and required special machinery and stuff like that. And 5-6 years, especially through COVID and right afterwards, through all that inflation, he never charged a penny more for his pricing.
Wow.
And after about a year of working on them, we reluctantly took a few products and added, like a 30% price increase on it. And nobody batted an eyelash. But what is it about people that just, they don't want to even look at considering raising prices? I mean, Alison, you probably see that from the dollars and cents point of view often. What's the mindset there, and what should people be looking at when it is time for, and what's the hesitation?
Yeah, they worry about losing a customer. And, that's the analysis that we can help with is, well, even if you lose 2 customers, but all your others are paying the higher rate, you're going to still be more profitable. And then you have an opportunity to bring on new customers at that higher rate. And that's what I call being more efficient in your business, by having better and more profitable customers. I went into one business, and they didn't have margin by product. And so we did data digging, and we pulled all the information out, and we found out there was one product that they had a 5% margin on. And by eliminating that one product out of their portfolio, it exasperated now their margin, because now they had salespeople spending time on their more profitable products, and it grew exponentially. They just could not understand what a huge difference that made by just eliminating one product, and not just the margin effect on that, but the fact that now they were selling more profitable products.
And Alison, on that business, I know you can't tell who it is, but just to give the audience a size, like how big of a business was that? Was that 20 employees, $1 million, or 100 employees, $50 million?
No, that was a multi-million-dollar company. And believe it or not, they still were not focused on their margin by product. And
it's about the data, right? And knowing
they couldn't get it. They had it was a very complicated business. So it took really some creative thinking and the right expertise. And to add on to Heather, I had to bring an IT person in to be able to say, okay, can you pull out this data, because we really need to be able to see this. And it made a huge impact on their business, and their salespeople were so happy. And when you talk to the salespeople, they were so happy not to be selling that product anyway, because they really did like it. So, you know, if the owner would have just listened a little more to the salespeople, but you need the data to back up these business decisions, right? You have to have the data. You can't do it by your gut. You've got to have the data to back it up.
You have to have the data. Yep. And that's what I've seen too, that as soon as you present the data, you know, the black and white facts, then people are like, oh, that's a game changer. That is a game changer for people and making, you know, decisions based on it.
So we probably only have about 5 minutes left. Let's go back to, and Heather, you're on the big screen already. So why don't we, if somebody was to reach out to you and solicit your services, what's a good way to start that? Maybe, is it a package of so many hours, so many days? Is it a discovery call? I mean, how does anybody start with you in the beginning?
That's a great question, because it really varies from customer to customer, right? Like the IT issues can be just different between business to business. So I really like to start off with just a conversation and find out a little bit more about the challenges that they're having and what I can do to help. So there are packages on my website. I do offer them, but honestly, my clients we always do. They're different. Like the need is usually different from client to client. So I am just open to a conversation first, and then, you know, collaboratively we go from there.
Gotcha. And if they're seeing or feeling something in their business and they're like, okay, Heather is the person I need to call, what would that look like typically in a, you know, say it's a under 50 employee business?
So I always like to deep dive people's business, right? Like I want to find out like how they're making their money, what their daily processes are looking like, what are their challenges, like how is their software working for them? You know, what issues do you have daily with the software that they're using? And technology too. You know, I've been working with clients recently that their entire sort of tech stack needs help, right? And it's because they tried to implement it themselves and it really wasn't the right way. And I think self-implementation of tech does not allow for utilization of the entire software or technology hardware even. So I really like to deep dive that. So it's an initial conversation. It's figuring out sort of what their needs are and the opportunities to really just improve that.
Gotcha. Okay. And then how would somebody contact you, Heather? What's the best platform or best method of contacting you?
There's a lot of different ways. You know, they can contact me on my email, which is hdaniels@adazeconsulting.com. On my website, which is www.adazeconsulting.com. That also has my phone number there listed through LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. And through this platform, like there's a lot of different ways. So, and I'm absolutely happy to connect and just chat.
All right. So no excuse for not contacting you. All right, Alison, same question.
Yeah, great. So I offered 2 free hours of consultation. I usually find that it takes at least 2 hours to really understand a person's business and really make sure that when we move to the next stage of working together, that we're headed down the right path and understanding what's really needed for the business, because every business is different, just like Heather indicated. And I usually do project-based work a lot of times and sometimes monthly retainers. It really, again, depends on the person and the circumstances. And really, when in the consulting area, we really focus on what is your business strategy? Where are you trying to go? What are the decisions that you're having trouble making? And what's the information you'd like to see? So I really want people to be focused into the future, which is going to help us focus on their profitability. And increasing their profitability is really my goal with everybody. And I can say that so far, knock on wood, that everybody's profit has increased after our projects, because now we haven't really eliminated a bunch of expenses usually, but we're making better business decisions, which drives profit.
Yeah. And like I had asked Heather, are there very common early warning symptoms that a business owner, they're probably stumbling over these and should have called you years ago, but are those things like they're not getting their invoices out for 6 weeks, or their P&L sheets aren't done for a year, or they just look at it annually? Are there simple things like that you can tell somebody in the audience right now that if you see this in your business, it's time to call me? It's been time.
Absolutely. And all those things, Jay, lead right back to what I said in the beginning. If you don't have your financial statements in 3 to 5 business days, then you're not running your business, because you're not looking at information in a timely manner to be able to make business decisions. So whether it be invoicing, or you getting your AP in, or your bookkeeper is just overwhelmed because you've grown and your bookkeeper has kept up, but they don't have new and modern systems where you're not using AI to populate your vendor invoices, and you're not using all the tools in QuickBooks. So to your other question, you can contact me at AlisonAbry.com. My name's right on the screen there, and that's my website. Has all my contact information right there, or also on LinkedIn, all the same.
Most excellent. Yeah, that is a common thing I see with people when they get in business for themselves, is they take their time, they hurry up, get the product out the door, and then they take their time to invoice it, and they take their time trying to collect it. And boy, when receivables get old, people's willingness to pay slides along with that. So,
and with modern technology, right, there's no need for it. We can get ACH automatic payments. You can use that in QuickBooks. They all you have to do is click a link. And the same with your AP that you're paying, accounts payable to your vendors. And just a big plug on that, everybody should eliminate paying with checks. Nobody should be using checks anymore. It's such a big fraud risk. Mm-hmm. And so many businesses are losing money because fraud in their check stocks. So everyone should be either using online banking or ACH banking products or QuickBooks banking products. And People's Trust has great products in that arena too. And I'm sure they would love to hear me say, stop writing checks.
It's funny, not to go over with you guys, because I do appreciate and want to respect your time. Tuesday, I had the head security officer here talking about ways to prevent fraud and keeping an eye on your money. And the number one thing he said was try to minimize as many checks as you write as possible. Because believe it or not, the check washing and copying business is brisk.
Yep. So if someone did write a check, Jay, like what? So I've received a check, for example. How do and I've, deposited it mobilely, right? Like what do I do with it now? Is ripping it up sufficient, or is there what should be done with a check that's written and you have possession of it?
So on that note, I can't tell you, I can't wear my bank hat and tell you that, because I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
From a business point, I think I would keep that in my locked file cabinet for a few months.
Yeah.
Just in case something went sideways on that.
Yeah, there is regulation. As remote depositors, I think it's at least 3 months that we're required to keep those checks. And then we are required to shred them after. When I was a CFO, we had to sign documents every year to say, you'll keep them for X period, and then you'll shred them after.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yep.
And that was on the remote deposit?
Yes.
Interesting. Yep. Yeah. With my old business, I used to photocopy every check that came in, and that was part of my daily deposits to make sure that everything got plugged into the accounting the right way. And sure enough, once or twice a year, I'd have to go back to that massive file and look in one of those checks, just a photocopy of it. and see what happened of somebody tried to apply money to a different invoice or
Yeah.
whatever. And it was twice a year. It was worth its weight in gold and in a huge locked file cabinet full of paper checks and stuff. But that is good to know. I did not know that if that was the requirement on remote deposit capture checks, that to hold on to them for 3 months and then shred them. But
And it may be different for each bank too. Banks tend to have different rules, but you do want to keep them for a while.
you definitely want to make sure that they've passed the point of the clawback period.
Yes.
Especially if it was one that was that was for money owed. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are rolling up on the 40-minute hour, and I promise to only take 35 minutes of your time. So I want to thank you both for coming on the show and sharing your expertise and knowledge. And for those of you that are watching this recorded a little bit later, I think the message here is pretty clear. Don't wait to stack your team and get the best advice possible as early as you dare to grow your business, because it's all about knowledge, efficiency, and expertise.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay, for hosting.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And we will see you next time on the channel here. Next Thursday, we have Kate Parker coming in, and she's going to talk about great ways to offer employee benefits without breaking the bank, as they say. So if it's Thursday and it's noon, we're on the channel talking about something business related. I will see everybody next time. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye, Jay.